So I think pretty much everybody under the sun has basically heard of Kyrie is not going to be taking the COVID-19 vaccine. And it is leaving the Brooklyn Nets in a situation where Kyrie Irving could potentially miss half of the season or just half of their home games because due to the local ordinances and the COVID-19 protocols that the city of New York, the state of New York, and the Brooklyn Nets have set up for this season, he would not be allowed to play in the Barclays Center or arena, whatever it's called, for the home games unless he's vaccinated. So, Kevin, obviously, this is a very touchy subject. I imagine a lot of people have differing opinions on whether or not that Kyrie should get the vaccine or not. But just give me your perspective on just the situation as a whole of Kyrie Irving and him not taking the vaccine based on what his stance is on the whole mandate policy.
So obviously, everybody has their own life choices in how they're handling COVID. I'm not going to get into pro-vaccine, anti-vaxxers. I don't believe that there is such a thing. I just think people have different preferences. So let me be clear about that. Kyrie has obviously vocalized his opinion on such matters, whether or not he agrees with it or not. He has stated that he is not an anti-vaxxer. He just genuinely does not want to take it because he feels that how people are being treated for these New York City mandates is just unfair. He's trying to take a stance and trying to make sure that people are aware that just because you are being pressured into doing something for a career and being threatened with termination, obviously not in his case, but he is also communicating for those that did lose their jobs in New York because of the pandemic in the mandate regard. I think it's a noble cause. I really do. I think that Kyrie is making a statement for a lot of people, and he is standing up for a lot of others that do not have a platform like himself. However, in terms of just speaking about the NBA and speaking about the Brooklyn Nets and the team and what they need, that is their starting point guard and who they owe $32 million to. And he needs to understand that if he wants to play basketball for Brooklyn and play with KD and play with Harden, or just play in New York in general, this is what the option is. There really is not an if, and, or but. There is no negotiation. This is what it is from the city. It's not the NBA. It's not Adam Silver. It is above you. It is bigger than you. It is a decision in which you have no control over. It is either you take the vaccine or you do not. Now, what you decide is completely up to you. I, again, respect whatever choice you make, but you cannot complain that you're not going to get paid. You cannot complain that you're not going to like the team that you get traded to because that is probably the only option that Brooklyn has, and I'll get into that in a second. This is the choice you've been dealt, and this is the choice that you have to make. Is it sad that it has come to this point? I agree. Yes, you should not be forced to have to do anything you do not want to. But again, I understand where New York is coming from because of the scare in which COVID put the city and put the state and put everybody in general in the world in. So I get both sides. I really, really do. But when it comes down to the final choice, vaccine, you get paid your $32 million and then you potentially get your extension of 185. Don't get vaccinated. Don't get to play the home games. Brooklyn probably decides to trade you because you decide to go against what it is that needs to happen for the state. And then you're on a team that you don't want to play for. Kyrie said on Instagram Live last night he has no intentions of retiring. Kyrie Irving also said that it's not because he does not believe in the vaccine. So again, let that be clear. But it has gotten to a point now where this has become such a media distraction for the team. And we are probably just a little bit over, if not just under a week away from the NBA tip-off. And this is headlines all over the place. Everywhere in New York. It's bigger headlines than the Knicks. It's bigger headlines than the Lakers because Kyrie Irving is just genuinely all over the tabloids because he's choosing not to get the vaccine. And again, I respect his choice, but when it comes down to a business decision, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. You are literally putting your career in jeopardy because if you get sent somewhere for the best available offer, and that best available offer, again, hypothetically, nobody knows anything, is fucking Cleveland, you're back to square one, except there is no LeBron James. So the remainder of your career is pretty much a wash. Again, the season ends and you will become a free agent and somebody will sign you, but you're wasting a year. You don't know what's going to happen. Brooklyn could be your best chance at an opportunity at another ring. So I do not know what Kyrie's going to do. I don't believe anybody knows that but himself. But in terms of the Brooklyn Nets' best option, I would say if he is hell-bent on not taking it and you are not going to be re-signing him in this offseason because of these vaccine mandates, get something for him, put something on the table, and you have to make your other superstars happy. KD signed an extension this offseason. James Harden is going to be due for an extension, I believe, in a year or two. You got to win now because Kyrie leaving is unfortunate. But as you can see in the post-game press conferences for both KD and James, I believe KD's probably talked to Kyrie a lot more, but you can see that James said yesterday, I haven't talked to him, and he has no interest in talking to him. So the distraction is getting to the team internally. It's gotten to Steve Nash, and it's going to get to the owner in the front office of Brooklyn. So only time will tell at this point. But Kyrie's making the decision for what he believes to be right, and if he feels like leaving money on the table, then that's his business.
Well, and there's two ways to kind of look at this. You look at, Kyrie's stance, and I imagine like he's taking this stance from a perspective of just personal liberty. I understand that the NBA has made this a mandate where they pretty much want every NBA player vaccinated going into this season. And I understand why some people may feel, in disagreement towards that, not because they have an issue with the vaccine itself. It's just they just don't believe that the NBA should be mandating that everybody across the board should be getting the vaccine to be able to play. And I do think that Kyrie, in that respect, that's something that I agree with. And I also think kind of just the issue at hand here that Kyrie is bringing up. I don't believe it's an issue of Kyrie bringing this up. I think this is more of a poor reflection of just the NBA rules in regards to COVID. That's another topic for another day, though. That's just my opinion on it. But when it comes to the impact of Kyrie not being able to play for half the season for Brooklyn, that just puts Brooklyn in a situation where, Kevin, I'm fully in agreement with you. You have to trade him because I don't know how you could keep somebody on the roster if they're only going to be able to play half the games for you because of the local rules in regards to COVID, that he wouldn't be allowed to enter the arena and play. And that's just kind of how I see this scenario playing out. I don't believe that those COVID rules or those COVID mandates are going to change anytime soon. So Brooklyn's got to be, I imagine right now that they might be fielding some offers from teams that are interested in Kyrie's services at this point. But I think those other teams going to have to look at this situation carefully because depending on where you go, there could be teams where you could look at the owner, for example, where they want everybody to be mandated to get the vaccine. And I know Mark Cuban was one in particular saying just the last day or so that all of his players and everybody within the Dallas Mavericks organization needs to be vaccinated to be able to participate. And like if Kyrie were to get traded to like the Dallas Mavericks, for example, I don't know how that would be able to work out. Just because, Kyrie has his stance against the vaccine. I don't think that scenario would happen. I don't really see him going to the Mavericks, but it just puts Kyrie in a situation where I understand the personal liberty point that he's making, but when it comes to the business side of things, as far as his NBA career is concerned for this season, yeah, it puts him in a bind. It puts any team that he could potentially play with in a bind. So, I totally understand, and I know where Kyrie's kind of coming from with the whole personal liberty aspect in regards to just mandates against COVID. But you have to understand that there's another side of this equation, and it is the business aspect. And if he wants to sacrifice that, that could happen. Where, this year he may just sit out. I don't think that's something he wants to do, but I don't know how it's going to really play out because I don't really see a team trying to trade for Kyrie if he's only going to be able to play half of the games, depending on where he goes, because there are other mandates across the country, for this whole COVID vaccination thing. So the situation is tricky on face value. It's very sensitive. I know everybody kind of has their own opinion on it, but understand where Kyrie's coming from, but the other thing is that it's definitely going to affect his basketball outlook for this season, and I don't know how it's going to be able to change anytime soon. But on the personal liberty part, I get it. I do. That's just how I look at it, though.